Cody Benjamin, our colleague, friend of the podcast, great guy, put out his quarterback power rankings, and boy, oh boy, is he inviting his mentions to be absolutely obliterated. Whenever I post any sort of ranking, I don't know about you guys, whenever I post any sort of ranking on the site, social takes it and turns it into a graphic. There is no context. They post it on Instagram. People start screenshotting it, and they tweet at you. Kyler Murray tweets at you. You're in the New York Post, yada, yada, yada. It all happens so fast. Cody Benjamin probably going to get dragged for this. Won't get killed for the number one pick because it's Patrick Mahomes, two-time Super Bowl champion, three-time Super Bowl champion, back-to-back champion currently, multiple-time MVP winner, multiple-time Super Bowl MVP winner. No problem with Patrick Mahomes at one. However, fellas, at number two, he has the runner-up from the Super Bowl, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. Let's read it out, I guess. Let's give the kid the respect he deserves. 2 seasons, 2 NFC title games, 1 valiant Super Bowl effort. Does he have a sterling setup in San Francisco? Yep. Does he operate like a 10-year vet, managing the pocket as both an efficient and mobile gunslinger? Also, yep. No caveat whatsoever here, Sully. He's just going right in with, let's give Brock Purdy the respect he deserves for winning on a really great team. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad a pick is this?
It's up there, and I love Cody. He's one of the hardest working guys that we have. It's not against him. And honestly, he's doing his job. Like, this is going to get a ton of clicks. Like, this is exactly, the off-season type of page view thing that absolutely works in this business. But to put Purdy up against, the rest of the league outside of Patrick Mahomes is tough, because if we just go down the list and you say, okay, you're starting your franchise, you can have Brock Purdy or CJ Stroud. I'm taking Stroud. Do you want Brock Purdy or Lamar Jackson? I'm taking Lamar Jackson. You go down the list, and there's a handful at least of quarterbacks that I am taking over Brock Purdy, absent of the situation that he's in San Francisco. So is he number 2? No. Is he number 10? Maybe. That's kind of where I'm at here. So if I think this guy's a fringe top 10 quarterback in the league and he's ranked at 2, how bad is it? Well, it's probably a 9 or a 10.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting ranking. And I will say, look, I actually agree with a lot of what Cody has ranked here. He had to rank 32 quarterbacks. I think I agree with probably 90% of it. But this one is just egregious. And it's not even people disagreeing with it. People will read this and maybe even say, you know what, I'm not going to read this guy's writing anymore if he thinks Brock Purdy is the second best quarterback in the NFL right now. And I think Tyler kind of hit the nail on the head, because when you look at these quarterback rankings, there's different ways to do it. And I think the easiest way to do it is if you were starting a franchise tomorrow and you have to pick a quarterback, Patrick Mahomes is going number 1 to whoever has that pick. Brock Purdy is not going number 2. And then also, if you're close on quarterbacks, if you have 2 guys, and let's say you have Josh Allen at number 3, which is the case here, Brock Purdy at number 2, say you just can't decide who should be at 2, who should be at 3, you say, all right, what happens if you put Brock Purdy on the Bills? Are they going to be as good with Brock Purdy as they were with Josh Allen? The answer is no. They are not going to be. If you ask Kyle Shanahan who he would rather have at quarterback, Josh Allen or Brock Purdy, he's taking Josh Allen. So, I don't see any way you can really put Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy should be in the top 10, but number 2 is just way too high.
Yeah, here's the thing is, and you made exactly the same point I wanted to make, Breaches, and I'll ask you, Sully. Is there a criteria you can build in which in other words, like sort of working backwards to try and build a criteria where you start and say, I'm going to have Brock Purdy as my number 2 quarterback. And I think the only one is if it's who was left standing in the playoffs last year, because you can't, because Cody, you read the rankings and he says at the top, he says, which ones are the best of the best as we stand here today approaching the new year? And which ones could be for trouble? All quarterbacks are partly a product of their situations, but this is how we sort today's simple colors bold right now. These power rankings are obviously subject to drastic change once games actually get underway, as they're built to be based more on current standing than the bigger picture, in an effort to tell the story of each quarterback's respective rise and fall. So there's nothing about his description here, Sully, that indicates, he's working backwards from, okay, Brock, because I don't think Brock Purdy finished number 2 in the MVP rankings, right? I mean, there's all kinds of different. There's not really any way outside of he was the next to last quarterback to lose He was the last quarterback to lose, because Mahomes actually didn't lose in the playoffs. That's the only way you can get there with Brock Purdy, because Breach's point is absolutely spot on. If Kyle Shanahan is, I don't think you need to give him true serum. I think he would just trade Brock Purdy for CJ Stroud. I think every coach would do that.
Well, I mean, just go back to like last year. Was it last year, right? Where they had Sam Darnold and there was like a weird flirtation of whether or not he would play at some point. So like, that's neither here nor there.
Well, to that point, real quick, Solly, to that point, the 49ers, and this was after Brock Purdy had the elbow injury and they brought in quarterbacks, they were calling Tom Brady and they were saying, hey, look, do you want to come here and start? And look, I know 49ers fans will say, well, that was just insurance in case Purdy's elbow didn't heal. Well, guess what? It's not like they were going to send Tom Brady to the bench if Purdy's elbow did heal. It was Shanahan was so much looking for other quarterback that he was willing to put Purdy on the bench for an entire year if Brady was willing to play. So like that tells you how Shanahan feels and what he thinks of the guy running his offense.
And I'll say this, just in defense of Cody, to try to make the case for Brock Purdy to be number 2. I don't believe it, but let's just play it out here. Like you're saying, Brinson, how do we get Brock Purdy to be the number 2 quarterback in the league? Well, what do you want these quarterbacks to do? If you're Chicago, what do you want Caleb Williams to do? Do you want him to put up a bunch of stats, or do you want him to lead you to deep playoff runs? Patrick Mahomes is sensational, but the reason why we call him great and possibly the greatest of all time is because he's winning Super Bowls and getting them deep into the playoffs almost on a regular basis. Brock Purdy, if he remained healthy in that NFC Championship game, there's a real possibility that this dude's 2 for 2 going to the Super Bowl. So if we're going under the construct of, can you win me football games, not just during the regular season, but in the postseason and get me to a chance to win the Super Bowl? Brock Purdy has done that. So is it prolific like Josh Allen? Is it prolific like CJ Stroud? No, I think those guys are more talented. But if we're talking about a knack for winning, Brock Purdy really hasn't shown us that he can't take them all the way. I mean, yes, he hasn't hoisted the Lombardi trophy, but he's put them in a far better position than, say, Jimmy Garoppolo, or when they swung for the fences, of course, Trey Lance a few years ago.
Well, and to that point, real quick, and look, because you could say the same thing about Jimmy Garoppolo. If Jaquiski Tartt doesn't drop that interception in the NFC title game in 2021, then Garoppolo's been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years with the 49ers. And I don't think anyone was calling Garoppolo the number 2 quarterback. But Tyler, I do get your point, just that like he's running the system perfectly. And what more can you ask?
Well, and just really quickly, I want to look up to see if we have. I don't know if these are even up yet, but if they are, I'd be curious to know. What are the MVP odds for 2020? Like, would you suggest that? I think Brock Purdy he's definitely a top 10 candidate. So for MVP, here are the odds at DraftKings Sportsbook. Patrick Mahomes 6-1, Josh Allen 8-1, Joe Burrow 9-1, CJ Stroud 9-1, Lamar Jackson 10-1, Jordan Love 12-1. That is expensive, and then Brock Purdy at 12-1 as well. So, I mean, I think you can easily make the case that Brock Purdy's a top 10 quarterback, but number 2 is a stretch. Cody went with it anyway, and we will certainly see if Purdy can hold up that lofty number.